It was a name that came up quite early on, which is a bit 50-50 with us. Sometimes we get album titles quite early on and we stick with them, and it seems to keep everybody happy, and it works for the whole project. Or sometimes it's last day mad, like everybody trying to like think of really sort of like any title that can come into their heads. So yeah, we just felt that it summed up the eclectic nature of the songs and the sounds on the album.
I think the songs on this record have a sort of much more sort of positive spin on them, more sort of open, spiritual, for want of a better word, in its content, and sort of looking outwards a lot more. And I think music has always been, we try to make it anyway. It's atmospheric and visual, and it's a great. The sounds of the universe just sounds right, and like I said, I like the arrogance of it too.
Also, the word universe has come up a few times in the lyrics for the new songs, and we think it's quite pompous, and slightly witty. So we thought it was a good title.
I always find it difficult to pinpoint any themes that sort of go along with lyrical content and musical content, but they develop. They seem to develop during the recording. I mean, there's definitely themes there within the songs, and I would say that they're sort of loosely tied together.
I think that there's quite a broad variety, really. There's not really a theme to the record, other than like all the themes that I always write about, I suppose. I keep joking about it, that I keep writing the same songs over and over again, but it's sort of true up to a point.
I interpret them as looking at my part in situations, and they can be everyday situations or situations that are happening in the world, and quite often how I feel about that is how I use my voice. I kind of want to draw you into the song.
Depeche Mode normally write, songs about life, the world we live in and life in general. It's one of our sayings, and musically, we've sort of maybe gone a bit more electronic on this album. Martin's had this obsession with buying old synthesizers on eBay, and that's been quite interesting and quite. As soon as one arrives, we get it out and try it and stuff. So that's been quite cool. But I think the main thing about the album is, which is different, Martin's really become quite prolific in the last couple of years. So we've got a lot more songs than we normally have.
We first got together, I think it was in January of this year, something like that. We went to Mart's place, and Daniel and Jonathan, me and Fletcher, Martin, we sat in his studio and listened to the work he'd been doing, and I had a bunch of things that I'd been doing, and sort of loosely talked about. Ben was there as well, Ben Hillier, actually, and he got very excited about some ideas he had about approach, and there being some more performance in the studio from us, which is, that's the performance that happens in the studio. It's not like us sort of all getting together and jamming or something. But quite often a song will be sort of structured around, Martin playing a guitar line or something, or me, singing, and sometimes us doing that together. But quite often that becomes the kind of anchor that the rest of the song is kind of built from. And I think at first what happens is you kind of you throw a lot of stuff down, and then gradually, you know, it becomes a case of like taking things away rather than adding more. But we got together. I guess we went away and took the songs away, and I spent, before we actually began recording, I went straight back home. I came straight back to New York, and I began working on, with my voice, on Martin's songs, because I really was inspired by a lot of them, and I wanted to bring something to those songs with my voice. And so I sort of began to work every day as if I was sort of rehearsing for a tour or something. And what I found was, after a while, really allowing myself to sort of become part of the songs, I started to forget about what I thought they were supposed to sound like and what I was supposed to sound like in it, and just was able to use what I had to contribute to it and add to it and hopefully enhance the feeling of the songs. So when we first got together, I mean, Ben Hillier was one of the first to notice that how much sort of preparation I'd done, but it really served me well, because once I'd sort of stepped up to the mic in the studio, and I perform sort of live in the studio anyway. I don't go into any vocal booth or anything. I like to just hold a microphone and you know, and work the song like I do live. I'm not running around the studio and stuff, but I kind of like to crank up the speakers and just perform it live. And I'll do like, you know, 3 or 4 takes, and if it's right, if it's feeling good and I feel good, you know, it's kind of like it's not like everybody starts jumping around, but, you know, you get some nods, and, you know, generally I know if what I'm doing is in the right ballpark.
I think it's taken about, in the end, it would have taken about 5 to 6 months, which is sort of usual time for us. We recorded it in, well, most of it in New York and some of it in Santa Barbara.
I think that the interaction, for me personally, with Martin has changed quite a bit. I feel more confident about my ideas, and I also feel really good about. I feel like those ideas are really heard, and you know, quite often I witness them coming to life, and that always feels good. I mean, it's really difficult sometimes when you know, for me in the past, you know, singing somebody else's songs and trying to interpret them, you know, it's something that's it's a little tricky, you know, because on one hand I'm going to do my own thing, but on the other hand I have the, you know, the songwriter sitting there who's very meticulous about how he wants that song to sound, and certainly how he wants the notes to be heard and the words to be sung. And so in the past, you know, and in the past, to be quite honest, you know, I've sort of allowed that process to just kind of be as it was. But I think in the last couple of records, and certainly this one, like I said, I felt much more confident about what I'm bringing to the sound, and it's allowed me the freedom to really just sort of express myself within a band. And you know, it's always a compromise. That's what part of being in a band is. But quite often, what happens in that compromise is, you know, you're pleasantly surprised by other things that if you allow it to happen, don't try and sort of control things all the time and go into a certain direction, which, you know, we all do. But on this album, what I've noticed being quite different to others is that I felt like I've been, you know, Martin and I have kind of been joining a lot more, and somehow sort of without even talking about it really, we seem to be going in the same direction with what we wanted to do with these songs.
It's been a very good vibe, you know, and we seem to be getting on very well together, you know, and I would sort of say the atmosphere has been, you know, really quite stable, you know, and just very creative, and it couldn't be better, to be honest.
I think that the atmosphere within the band has just been improving, you know, with time. we're quite famous for not getting on, at various points in our history, and I think that really has become a thing of the past. We got on fairly well during the making of Playing the Angel, and the tour I think was a joy to be on, and everybody enjoyed it, and was pleased when it ended, but also left it with a little bit of regret. So I think we've just continued in that vein, and I think everyone's a lot less precious about everything now. I think we can sit down and have a meeting and see other people's points of view and concede certain things, and it's I just think we have a general respect for each other now that maybe wasn't as prevalent before.
The techniques that Martin and I use are quite different. Martin's much more traditional in the way that he'll sit down with a guitar and develop an idea, or sit at the piano and develop an idea and develop the notes and where he wants to go with them. He's a way more accomplished musician, I would say, than I am. But I write in a very different way to him. I like to, at the moment I've been, I continue to write with Christian and Andrew, Christian Eigner and Andrew Philpott, and that's been working, since after Playing the Angel tour, we wrote, recorded and produced Hourglass together. And for me, it was kind of continuation on from that. But once we get into the studio, it becomes something different. And, when I was demoing the songs that I contributed to this record, I had in the back of my mind all the time, like, don't be too kind of meticulous about how I want things to be, because I want the input, whoever the production team may be, and Martin certainly, in the studio to contribute ideas to those songs. And Martin was very, he contributed a lot to all the things that I've put that I have on this record.
Yeah, I don't think you can really tell when the songs are back to back that a song's mine or Dave's, because it does go through the whole Depeche process, and sort of Ben's production, and once Dave's sung the vocal, and then I put backing vocals on it and play guitar on it, and it ends up sounding like us.
We tend to treat each song differently. I think the idea is to try and create for that song the best possible atmosphere, the best possible treatment to suit that song. And most of the time we get that right, and sometimes we don't. Like I say, it's been quite interesting. This Martin's addiction, and we should say, to vintage synthesizers and drum machines, because it has sort of been. It's made it quite creative in the studio, because when these things arrive, you have to work out how it's used, and from there something comes from it,
I think all of the songs on the album sound very different, but the fact that I've been buying so much stuff, old analog drum machines and synthesizers on eBay, has helped to shape the record in some ways. Packages were turning up daily, and we were using them as they arrived, and that obviously had an impact on the record.
Yeah, I mean there are differences between Martin's songwriting and Dave's songwriting, regarding all songs are really treated in the same way when it comes to the actual recording, Dave's been really improving over the last, especially from his last solo album. He's very confident now in the studio, and really, in the end of the day, I think it would be quite hard to distinguish which was a Martin song and which was a Dave song.
The reason we chose Ben for this record was because we enjoyed making the last one so much. and we were really pleased with the end result last time. It just seemed really a stupid idea to me for us to be considering somebody else when we'd left on such a high note, and we all enjoyed the process so much.
Well, I think what Ben